Welcome to Findexible's Fintech Diversity Radar interview series. My name is Alexa Fernandez, your host for this edition. In this series, we're talking to global leaders in fintech about the issue of diversity and what it takes for women to be successful in financial services, which, as we all know, is still very much a male-dominated industry. Today, we have with us Dara Tarkowski, and I'm not even going to make an intro. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself and tell us how you became a globally recognized attorney, speaker, author, and most importantly, an innovator.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Alexa. I'm so excited about what Findexible is doing and really proud to be sort of part of the speaker series. So as you said, my name is Dara Tarkowski. I am the managing partner of Actuate Law, which is a boutique law firm based in Chicago, Illinois, but we're quickly expanding. I'm the chief innovation strategist at the law firm's subsidiary called Quointec, where we build RegTech products specifically designed for complex multi-jurisdictional legal problems. And then I also am the host of the Tech on Reg podcast on provoke.fm. And I've had the pleasure of sort of speaking and writing all around the planet, specifically with regards to regulatory issues at the intersection of law, technology, and highly regulated industry like financial services.
So you wear multiple leadership hats, and you were also recognized globally by being a part of Money 2020's Rise Up program, and also part of Innovate Finance 2019 Women in FinTech Power List. So as a global leader and a mom, most importantly, how are you managing it all, as well as achieving all this success?
So it's very like there's a lot jammed into that question. So I am a mom of 3 absolutely rock star children. I've got a little girl who's 10 and a half. Oh my God, almost 11, starting to freak out, and 8-year-old twin boys. So doing all of that while making sure that I'm still, very present and influential, and it's so important to me to be there for my kids. So trying to figure out a way to quote unquote balance it all is sort of tough. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this show, but I've always sort of adhered to the phrase that the concept of balance is sort of bullshit. But I think the most important part for me in terms of building my businesses and then also making sure that I am building my family is that I really, as much as I can, I try to weave the two together. So when I was opening the firm, when I was, founding my businesses, my daughter specifically was sort of like right alongside me, doing it with me. She was looking at spaces with me. She was helping me set up the office. She was literally unpacking boxes with me. I'd bring her to work when we were doing sort of remote schooling during COVID. Instead of my daughter, sitting in her room in the house, thankfully, like we had the space. I used to bring her to the office with me. So she was sitting outside back there in her little cubicle. So we were together. So she really got to see and watch what mom does day to day. So it wasn't so much that when moms work, she's not at home. My daughter very much feels part of, the businesses that I'm building and the work that I'm doing, and could probably answer better than some of my partners here about what mom does, day to day. So that's sort of one of the things that is really important to me and that I focus on. And then I approach, my work and my businesses, I think much like I approach my family. I care really, really deeply about the businesses that I'm growing and the humans that have entrusted me with sort of like their lives and their careers and their livelihoods to build that with me. So I'm sort of like a culture first person. And I think the best way to be a leader, and especially be a good leader to diverse talent, is to really put yourself where they are. So everyone on my staff sees my kids, with me all the time and with me in the office. And I hope that that resonates with them, that like I do, not only do I care about them, I care about their families, and, their entire well-being, not just their performance at work.
And a lot has changed in the past year. You've
Yeah.
been
To say the least.
And I feel like there's life before, well, there clearly is life before COVID and after it. Life before was pretty hectic. In fact, you and I met in Vegas. We met again in London and we met again in Vegas. So we've always been in and out of events and traveling. I think you called it, or you call yourself a road warrior.
I
And
was
to that,
like lots of us were.
exactly. So how do you think that's going to change now? Do you see that the industry is going to go back to its old ways, or perhaps reform the way that we manage our events and our lifestyles and expectations of everybody?
Well, I think there's definitely some heavy editing that's happening. So do I think that events are going to go exactly back to the way they were? Uh, Either no or not for a real long time. The whole world is still battling the pandemic. Different parts of the world are faring better than others, which is the subject of a whole separate conversation about equity. Uh, but the truth of the matter is that 2020 forced a lot of people, particularly a lot of parents. I don't want to, isolate that to women, because I think every parent probably, felt the impact of not only their own, professional lives being disrupted, but they saw their children's lives being disrupted as well. Schooling, activities, all of the things that, make up a child's day. And as parents, you then became the replacement. And we had 12 months of getting really comfy and used to that. And in a lot of ways, sort of hitting reset on those dynamics and figuring out ways to get done what we need to get done without constantly being out of the house, out of the state, out of the country, whatever it may be. I am hopeful that some of those habits and practices stay with us and continue on. I know I very much valued the extra time and like really close time that I got to spend with my kids, during pandemic and lockdown, as stressful as it was. So, like, I don't want to discount the stress of it, but again, we're going to be glass half full today. I think that that's great, but, I'm starting to travel again. Clients are starting to sort of like demand that from us, because they're starting to get comfortable seeing people and traveling again. So I'm hopeful that we find a happy, but most importantly, healthy middle ground, not just physical health, but mental health as well.
So let's shift the tone or the conversation now and talk about your transition into the fintech slash regtech space. Is there a
Sure.
story there? How did it happen?
Um, like many things in life, it sort of happened by accident. So several years ago, I started my career as a regular old, big law litigator, trained at some of like the best AmLaw 100 firms in the US. And I was sort of happened to start doing a lot of just regular old financial services legal work for a whole bunch of big banks, middle banks, and then a little bit in the non-bank space. I was really fortuitous. I live in Chicago, one of the financial services capitals of the world. And I found myself just, socially interacting with some real leaders in the city. And I was one of the few lawyers who also really spoke tech. So one of my areas of focus while I was in big law was also sort of implementation of technology for legal tech, electronic discovery, predictive coding, and all of those applications in really just a truly legal setting. And slowly but surely, it became apparent that most lawyers are like scared of technology. So I had the opportunity that I could really speak both languages. I could speak the languages that a lot of clients who are either building or deploying really sophisticated technology, I could speak with them on a technical level, not just on a lawyer level. And I found myself as in this interesting space of like being translator. Then I met some really key people who really sort of effectuated my transition into fintech. And those two people were Randy Rivera and Jason Henricks, and an organization in Chicago called Fintex, which is the Fintech Trade Association for the Midwest. Through the two of them, they sort of like very generously like brought me into the fold. I started doing a lot of work with the trade association, with its members. I ultimately became the association's outside general counsel for fintech. And then slowly but surely, my practice really just started shifting. And I became really envious of all of the cool things that these companies were doing. And I was like, I realized that like I might be like a frozen caveman lawyer, but like I can do those things too. So it was a combination of like the right people really being supportive of me and putting me in the right rooms. So I will just say that flat out. But then also sort of seeing the opportunity and capitalizing on a unique skill set that I had to just say, nope, I'm going fintech now. Like that's what it's going to be. And then the reg tech was really just sort of a natural evolution of that, because I live in regulations, right? Like that's the entire focus of my practice. So I thought it was important to put my money where my mouth was, where my advice was. And that's what I've done. And that's what I've spent the past 3 full years building on my own after I left the big law world. And I shouldn't say on my own, I mean, sort of like not at a big firm. I have wonderful partners. Randy's one of them, but I have wonderful legal partners. I've got wonderful technology partners, and it's just been a fantastic ride.
So that leads into the next question really well, which is, what would your advice be for women in this sector, women that are perhaps earlier on in their career journey or are looking to transition into the sector the way that you did it?
So I think it's a combination of a few things. I truly believe that the more you're sort of out there and the more you can connect with other people who are in the industry and in the space, regardless of their gender, the better. Alexa, you and I would not have met if it were not, for Randy. And I think that's great. I did a session for Randy, and I actually both did a session for Money Fest. Money 2020's Money Fest this year, all about creating a female future in fintech and how to align with male allies. And I do think that is critically important in, financial services generally, fintech in particular, because the statistics and the numbers still sort of are what they are. I'm absolutely an advocate of women supporting one another. We have to do that. But at the same time, finding the right male allies who not only align with your professional goals, but really truly like your personal values, and leveraging those relationships is really, really important. I'm a really, really direct person. So if I want to ask someone to do something to help me, I just flat out ask them. So I do think it's also a question of, you can't expect someone to sort of like hand you an opportunity. If you see something available to you, I would encourage every single woman to like be brave and speak up. So if you want to ask for a favor, or you want to ask for an introduction, or you want to ask for a meeting, be gracious, but don't be afraid to ask, because you've got to squeak. What did my dad always say? Squeaky wheels get the oil.
That's
So
really
I'm very squeaky.
That's like really good advice. And it makes me wonder, with these kind of initiatives that we participate in, and especially what we're doing right now, the Fintech Diversity Radar, you're a champion for it. So am I. What does it mean to you, and how do we make these initiatives successful?
So I think one of the most critical ways to make these initiatives as successful as they can be is making sure that there's sort of like true, like philosophical buy-in from senior leadership within the organizations that we're really trying to affect change in. It's really difficult to do otherwise, and we've spent a lot of years, I think, watching organizations pay a lot of lip service to the cause, for lack of a better phrase. I watched the legal industry struggle with it as well. I think in a lot of ways it's actually worse, but there are tangible goals and benchmarks and pledges that companies can make and hold themselves truly accountable to it. to those goals and benchmarks if they want to. So I think accountability is going to be really, really important. And in order for an organization to hold itself accountable, for the industry to hold those organizations accountable, there really has to be sort of like a true, not only shared goal, but also a shared determination that when you see people within your organization who are undermining those initiatives and who are undermining those goals, because as much as everyone likes to say that they are champions for diversity, you and I both know, and many of the people watching this video will know, that that is not true. Mm-hmm. And there are still a lot of people out there, and thanks to attorney-client privilege, I can't share details about those stories. But there are a lot of people out there who don't believe in the mission and who don't believe in the cause and are perfectly content with the status quo because the status quo has made them lots and lots of money over the years. So unless organizations are going to be both willing to pursue those initiatives, but also call out people who are undermining those initiatives, until both of those things coexist together, I think that we're not going to see material change. If there is a commitment on both of those fronts, I think we'll see wonderful change. And I think the entire industry will be better for it.
I think we're at an interesting period of time because for the first time, it's okay to call out those people and talk about it. I feel like previous years and when we were starting off our careers, it was not okay. And young people nowadays have so much energy and have no shame. And I think that's also what's going to allow us to progress as an industry.
I think that's 100% right. And I think that those individuals who have not sort of gotten on the train in the direction that it is headed and ought to be headed, and I just wish we were headed there faster. I think those individuals and some organizations are in for a really rude awakening. And I would, I always encourage women who either feel as though that they've been marginalized in their roles or they don't feel that they're being treated fairly or equitably. Always do it responsibly and intelligently, but I'm a big advocate of women speaking their truths. I definitely know that I do, and we're not going to affect change by being meek or being silent. And I think that the entire goal of Fintech's Diversity Initiative and Radar is to shine a big, bright light on the companies that are doing it right. And then equally, I don't want to use the phrase public shaming, but there are companies that are not doing as well. And that could be for a variety of reasons. So I think those sorts of benchmarks and that sort of really data-driven spotlight is massively important. And that's totally why I'm sitting here on an interview with you right now, and why I want to be a champion and continue to be a champion.
Speak your truth and don't be afraid to do it. I think that is a really good thing to end on. I thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed hearing, especially about your daughters and how you have made them such a big part of your business and your professional life. And I wish
just one, although she has enough personality for 10. I promise you that.
But I hope people are listening to that and more people do it, because that would really change the dynamic of the work environment. So thank you, Dara, for your time. Thank you to our audience for listening to the Findexable Fintech Diversity Radar interview. Feel free, please follow us and make sure to like us on our social media platforms. And for more information on the Fintech Diversity Radar, head to our website, findexable.com. Thank you.
Thank you.